Good morning and welcome to this week, the final day of June 2025. Thank you for starting this morning with us on Breakfast Central. Hope you had a good weekend and you're up and ready for the brand new week. My name is Olive Emodi and you're welcome to Breakfast Central.
And I'm Benga Borough. Welcome to Breakfast Central, the best and the right way to start your brand new week. Today, like Olive said, is the last day of the month, and tomorrow we'll usher you into a brand new month, July. And you know what July means for both of us?
It's our birthday month.
Great minds think alike. That's why we made sure that Johansson is not part of us this morning.
Happy birthday in advance.
Happy birthday in advance.
We are literally 5 days apart. No, 4 days apart. I'm 26 to your 30th. Yeah, 4 days apart.
And that's why we kicked out Johansson.
Yes, because we don't like people that trade us. Johansson can't be.
He can join us tomorrow. We'll make room for him.
We'll make room for him, yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, you're welcome.
How's the weekend, by the way?
My weekend was good. Kind of restful,
yeah.
I guess. It was good. How was yours?
It's important to rest and
shut down,
refresh for the brand new week. But it's good to be here. And so many things. It was almost like a weekday because if you look at the news cycle, so many things happen over the weekend.
I know.
And you're wondering, was it really a weekend?
I opened my phone to look at the news and I was just like, what's going on? It's like back-to-back news from APC, the latest update, the alleged rumor of a new SGF and then the debunking of that.
Yes.
It just felt like too many things were happening in the political space over the course of the weekend.
I guess it's because we're inching closer to 2027 and it might be like that. And that's why I always fight for our rights to work from Monday to Sunday, but thank God for Breakfast Extra.
It's only you that will work Monday to Sunday, my dear. Only you.
Because I was missing out all the political shenanigans. But it's good to be back.
It is good to be back. Speaking about political shenanigans, some have made this about politics, but again, you know that the voice of Peter Obi has been one that has been standing very strongly in this current administration. He has actually been an opposition in the sense of speaking up against things that he doesn't approve of.
Right from the end of the last election.
Honestly.
And very consistent.
Very, very. You would think that by now he would be tired, but there's no slowing him down.
Yes, and it does. It's not just speaking or releasing statements. He does walk the talk. Because he visits a number of these places that, for example, if there are disasters and things like that, he's been very active. And I don't think we've had an opposition leader that has been this active and dynamic in this since the return of democracy since 1999. Quite impressive.
I think he has been very vocal.
His work rate. Yeah, vocal. But vocal is different from showing walk-ins.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes,
physically visiting places.
Yes, so we will visit physically much more than Atiku has. But Atiku must speak up. He will criticize as well.
Yes.
So they've had really strong opposition. This current administration has really had strong opposition that's holding them in the jugular. But we put up Peter Obi's tweet. The reports had it that President Tinubu is set to travel yet again. And
he has traveled.
Has traveled because there's a special reception for him, I think, on the 30th of June and on the 1st of July. And Peter Obi is not having it. He's really, really criticizing him. I believe we have the tweet so we can put it up and then read the details to let you know exactly what Peter Obi has said.
So Mr. Peter Obi said, no, Mr. President, this is not the time for holiday in India. Nigerians, I'm struggling with my senses to understand what is happening to governance in this country. What I have seen and witnessed in the last 2 years has left me in shock about poor governance delivery and apparent channeling of energy into politics and satisfaction of the elites, while the masses in our midst are languishing in want. In the past 2 years, Nigeria has lost more people to all sorts of criminality than a country that is officially at war. Without any twilight, Nigeria ranks amongst the most insecure places in the world. Nigerians are hungrier, and most people do not know where their next meal will come from. With such a gory picture of one's country, you can imagine my bewilderment when I saw a news release from the presidency announcing that President Tinubu is departing Nigeria today for a visit to St. Lucia in the Caribbean. The presidency release, I beg your pardon, merely confirmed an earlier news report since last week where the Prime Minister of the Caribbean country, I guess, Philip J. Pierre, announced at a pre-cabinet briefing on Monday last week that President Tinubu is expected to depart Nigeria on Saturday, June the 28th for St. Lucia for official engagement and private leisure time. Well,
just to highlight that the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, had said on Friday that the President will visit St. Lucia on Saturday for a state visit as part of the efforts to deepen ties with the Caribbean nation and strengthen South-South cooperation. And the traveling is not ending there, because from there, he's traveling to Brazil for the BRICS summit. So Peter Obi is not having it, and he says there's been a lot of traveling. And we decided to, yes, that's the tweet, the State House press release, whereby Onanuga explained what was happening. He says, like many Caribbean nations, St. Lucia has a significant population of African ancestry. In the mid-19th century, a wave of immigrants from present-day Nigeria arrived in St. Lucia, bringing cultural and religious practices that persist today. And they are excited that, President Tinubu has chosen to visit the island. But the question I think that comes to mind is, first of all, is this a good idea? Maybe it's not a bad idea, but is this a good timing? That's where the issue is. The criticism has come as to why was it a necessary trip to make, especially with regards to the fact that there have been Nigerians, which Peter Obi made reference to, Nigerians who have had to face really difficult times as a result of insecurity that presidents could not visit. He visited, we saw what happened in Benue and the fanfare that was what was supposed to be some sort of a mourning season became like very sober, became some interpreted it as looking celebratory because it declared a public holiday. The children were under the rain, waiting to welcome the president to a state that was mourning the loss of its citizens. And then Yar'Adua, the president could not even go to Yar'Adua because it was a heavy downpour, there was flood. So the question then comes to mind, like, are these people really priority? And then there comes also the analysis of how many times the president has traveled. Remember that last year, that was the core of the conversation, because any small thing President Tinubu has moved, any small thing President Tinubu has traveled. So there was a compilation done of the number of times that the president has traveled. And we have a graphic photo to show you about it and to let you sort of know how many times this trip has been made. I'm just going to quickly run through it. So yes,
President Tinubu's foreign trip so far.
May 29, 2023 to date, he's traveled to France 6 times, where he has so far spent a total of 51 days.
That's what you call bonjour le merci.
Bonjour le merci. January 2025 alone, President Tinubu spent 12 days out of 28 days in January on foreign trips. February 2025, President Tinubu made a private visit to France en route to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, for the African Union Summit. Okay. April 2025, President Tinubu made his 5th visit to France this year on a working visit. Let's move on from April 2025 now to the next one, to look at still talking of May 29, 2020. Of course, yeah, we've gone through these details. These are some of the dates and the numbers. Okay, moving on to May. May 2025, President Tinubu made a short working visit to France after attending the inauguration of Pope Leo the 14th in France. June 2025, private visit and vacation to St. Lucia. That's the one that we're talking about. 1/12 of President Tinubu's time since assuming office has been spent outside Nigeria. Between January and June 2025, President Tinubu has made over 6 foreign trips across multiple continents.
I mean, there are different ways to look at it. But our focus this morning, I guess, is on the St. Lucia trip. St. Lucia is in the Caribbean, and it's kind of, it's very far from Nigeria. And St. Lucia to Brazil too is going to take some time. But looking at the duration, he wouldn't have spent more than 48 hours at St. Lucia. I think that is negligible. But they'll also argue that, he's using taxpayers' money, so it's kind of a big deal to them, especially looking at the current security climate in the country. Should you be holidaying in this very sensitive period of our nationhood? And that's what Mr. Peter Obi highlighted. But the presidential handlers, they resort to language like, he's being mischievous, is this and that. And I feel that's a bit too much. I know you're doing your job, but there are ways of doing it without necessarily sounding insulting.
Again,
address the issue.
It is the issue of body language, right? It is the issue of body language. Even the Holy Book says, all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. It might not be overtly wrong for you to make this trip, but does this signal to your citizens a lack of care, a lack of compassion? And if it does, then maybe abort mission. But it's not our position, or it's not our place to determine. You decide. Let us know what your thoughts are regarding President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's trip. Do you think that all is well, there's no issue there, and Peter Obi is just raising unnecessary dust? Or do you agree with His Excellency Peter Obi's standpoint regarding the trip? You can drop your comment on YouTube. I'll quickly check on YouTube and take maybe 1 or 2 comments. At News Central TV, we're streaming live on YouTube. We'd love to take your comments. But let's move on from that story now to another story where President Goodluck Jonathan, the former president of Nigeria, sat down in a one-on-one interview and explained what had happened during the time of President Yar'Adua, and talking about how he transitioned, was supposed to have transitioned from vice president to acting president, and how there was a lot of politics, or do I say politics, that happened behind the scenes. But let's take a look at the video.
There's always balancing between North and South, Muslims and Christians. And Yar'Adua was a Northern Muslim, was the president. And he took over from a Southern Christian, Obasanjo, who ruled for 8 years. So definitely the Northern Muslims wanted Yar'Adua to at least do 8 years before he could come back to the South for another, probably a Christian, to take over. But well, the health issue came up, and it was the problem. And that is why even to allow me to act was an issue. When Yar'Adua was going for the medical checkup, actually a letter was written. Of course, the Constitution says that for the vice president to act, the president would send a letter to the Senate and the House of Reps, informing them. That letter was written, but the person who the letter was handed over to, I will not mention the name to you now, was one of the aides of Yar'Adua, refused to submit the letter to the National Assembly. And Yar'Adua became so ill that he had no control of issues. So we had a country where the president was not available and there was no acting president.
Not mention the name of that aide.
Exactly, that's one of the biggest issues. Maybe he's saving it for, he's probably writing his memoirs.
A book. Okay,
and if he lets the cat out of the bag, will you buy the book?
There are the other things, of course, there are other things.
The person.
There are other things that he's experienced that we will never have known.
Still be
exactly. If you're going to grant an interview, let's not do half and half disclosure. Just tell us the name. Let's understand who are the people that are into this sort of politics, because this book can be maybe people that are at the helm of affairs now,
exactly.
So we know who to be wary of.
Responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and looking at that time, I mean, just going back memory lane, we remember Professor Shoyinka and a few civil society organizations did lead protests for the transmission of power to the vice president, and that was when we had this word, cabal. It was well used in our political lexicon in Nigeria that cabal had taken over. They didn't want to hand over to former President Goodluck Jonathan and all of that. So, but he acted very responsibly in that time. He didn't make statements to rock the polity until the passing of Goodluck Jonathan. But one of the passing of late President Yar'Adua. But one of the lessons we can learn from here is that strong institutions and no persons, regardless of how close you are to the presidency, should be able to usurp power and not act in the best interest of the country. And I really wish, like you said, he mentioned that person, so we'll know those who threaten and endanger our democracy.
Well, that's that for that. But again, we open the floor for you to let us know your thoughts. But let's have a few reactions concerning this story. Nigerians, of course, have started reacting to the interview. The boy is good says, Jonathan, you are the problem. You were not supposed to run in 2011. It was the turn of the North. Using the PDP machinery, which you controlled as a substantive president, you staged a democratic coup against the aspirations of Northern Nigeria, her people, and politicians, and stole the PDP ticket for 2011. I also have a blame for the Southeast and South-South and the Eastern Middle Belt PDP who encouraged your greedy ambition. Jonathan, I have on good authority that you were scheming to be president even before Yar'Adua died. You don't mean it. Wow. Little wonder Bola Tinubu, Chibuike Amechi, Atiku Abubakar, Rabiu Kwankwaso, Kawu Baraje saw through your game, impending instability, and switched to support Buhari, who he despised and hated so much, and you got pulled down. Nigeria has not recovered from the mess your greed brought upon, and now APC is destroying the little of what is left from Buhari to Bola Tinubu. Bola Tinubu is a terrible leader, but you made it possible for APC to have a shot at power and sow the seed that has destroyed the PDP, once the biggest and most formidable political party in the whole of Africa. Wow. Okay, I never saw that coming.
Yar'Adua was an angel. Urobo Water says Yar'Adua was an angel. GJ is showing his weakness at his age and time. What will happen if you mention the name of the aide? Avon will not fall. Okay.
Ridwan Babatunde says, many of you don't understand how politics really works. There are certain things politicians can't say publicly. They're called state secrets. These are sensitive matters that, if exposed, could destabilize a whole country. This happens everywhere, not just here. That's why you don't mix emotions with politics. It's a game of strategy, not sentiment.
Official, the Nigerian citizen says, after even leaving presidency, Jonathan is still a coward. He cannot mention the name of an aide, a domestic servant, spits. Yeah, and that's all.
Someone responded to him. They said, this is not, I believe, when they say cowardice. It's wanting to remain in peace. Anyway, every side of the divide would always have their perspective as to what has happened and their interpretation of it. Some will still blame even the late Yar'Adua, who is supposed to be resting in peace. Some will still blame him. Some will blame Jonathan. Again,
people are entitled.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But let's move away from politics to talk about some, would I call it diplomatic issues?
It's still
what I'm
kind of like politics.
Is it politics? Well, a young...
Politics of the people who voted that president.
The one we're about to talk about.
Yes.
Which of
people who voted President Jonathan, President Trump.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I see what you mean. So, why am I'm trying to remember her name, and I even know her. But an actress who's also a businesswoman tried getting into the United States. She was going for a fair. So there's currently a fair happening in the U.S. On her way there, she had posted about it on her Instagram. And then she had the B1, B2 visa. On getting there, she was denied entry into the U.S. after they saw her social media post. She had a video explaining her ordeal. Let's take a look.
Hi, everyone. I have thought of many ways to do this, and to be honest, none of it hurts any less. I have figured out in my head, should I tell you guys the truth, or should I just play along with it? But I think the best is just to tell the truth. As you all know,
well, unfortunately, we can't take the full video, but I think the summary of what she was trying to say was just what I had explained earlier, how she was not allowed to display. Her name is Chinelo Ejianwu. She's a Nollywood actor, and she's a businesswoman, an entrepreneur who sells hairs. She was going on a trade fair in the U.S., in Houston, and she was not allowed. After they checked her social media, they detained her at the airport and they didn't allow her entry. Recall that last week on the show, we talked about the U.S. putting a criteria for everyone opening their social media, and we're asking what of those who don't have social media. This is a classic case of what has happened. I mean, we're not quite sure, but it would seem that what's happened here is that the visa that she had did not support the visa to sell there. That's some of the explanation that I've seen. You know, there are those who say that she had a B1, B2 visa, which doesn't allow for sales. I mean, there's a conflict as to what exactly might have happened there, but some of the explanation we've seen in this regard. And the fact that the evidence of that on her page just meant that they could easily see it. And she's a public figure, so it can't be.
I mean, it's really, really sad.
It's very sad.
You have to feel for her, traveling all that,
all
the way, the money she spent on tickets, accommodation, and all of that just to get rejected at the point of entry. That must be really, really painful. So I think there are lessons here to be learned. You need to be more circumspect and come clean and declare everything, your intentions. What are you going there for? Is it holidays? If you're going for business, get the proper visa that covers you, because these things can be easily verifiable.
But the truth is, we're not quite sure. So maybe there needs to be clarity.
Yeah, I'm just speaking in general.
Yes,
terms.
there needs to be clarity. And even with the U.S. Embassy, with them saying that you need to open your social media, there needs to be clarity as to what is allowed, what isn't allowed, so people know the lines. If not, there might be an ability to influence certain decisions and say, we're not going to allow you enter just for certain reasons. We saw something and you don't even know what it is that they saw. If somebody is being punished for a wrongdoing that they're not sure of, how can they ensure that it doesn't happen again? From what I'm seeing here, they say the B1, B2 visa allows trade show participation, but not direct sales. That there are suggestions that she plans to, of course, she plans to sell her products, but that the distinction between exhibiting and selling is unclear, and her post might have been misinterpreted. There are critics that argue that social media checks can be subjective, potentially leading to unfair denials. So that's another issue where it comes from. Tomorrow you can be applying to go to the US, you have your visa, and then they say to you that, oh, we're having you as a guest attending a show, so maybe there's an event that I'm not even going to work for, I'm not being paid for, but I'm supporting them, and they just say, oh, Oliver Modi is going to be there. And you get there, and you post the flyers, they see that, they will think you're going to work, and then they will detain you. So really, it will be great if there's some form of clarity as to what exactly is expected, so people know not to cross these lines. And I mean, I really don't know what to say.
If I ever have to go to the United States, judging by what I've seen so far, I would just turn my entire page to posting of meme, Scooby-Doo, and different things. It will be a page of memes.
For those who don't get the joke, I was about to say, for those who don't get the joke, it's memes he's talking about. Well, our heart really goes out to her, and I hope that she's able to get up from this, because regardless of how you see it, it's also something that is really heartbreaking, that will break down her, is enough to break down the spirit of any entrepreneur. Because your dream is to go there and put your brand on an international scale. And I'm hoping that this can also be like a teaching avenue for all of us to learn. Again, it would be great for the US to give us clarity as to what the lines are that should not be blurred, so people know how to ensure that this does not happen again. I don't think anybody, well, there are people, but most enlightened people don't want to wake up and intentionally flout the law, right? Most enlightened people don't want to do that. All right, our final story this morning is something I saw in Delta State. The Delta State Police Command has taken it upon themselves to educate citizens as to what the do's and don'ts of the law are, the violence against all persons law in Delta State. And there's a very interesting law. I'm going to read the law for you. They put out a flyer, actually, to make it easy to understand. I don't know if we have the photo there. It says, Section 16 of the Delta State Violence Against All Persons Law, 2015. And this, of course, has to do with how people dress. They put it in pidgin to make it easy for people to understand. They say, as you don't like wear clothes where they cover your body well, and you prefer the waka go work, school, or anywhere with clothes where they show everywhere for your body, make you hear am. Delta State government not a smile for that kind dressing. VAAP law don ready to punish anybody wey no dress well. Punishment na community service or 50,000 naira fine. I looked at this, and it's a message from the Delta State Police Public Relations Department. I had to double check this page to be sure that it's not a scam page. But it was actually the Delta State Police Command that posted this thing. And I was wondering for a minute that, wow, are we in Iran or are we in Pakistan? You know, I was a bit confused as to where we were when I saw that.
And also, putting the photo of a lady there, even though it's a cartoon, it's an animation, is also, it makes it look like it's targeted against a particular gender.
Obviously targeted against women.
How about men that move around with topless, men that urinate in public, men that sag? You're almost seeing all their behind. Will this law apply to them? So
I don't know how I feel about this.
There are different issues.
There are too many issues to this law because, first of all, there are different dressings for different outings. I may not wear certain things, but if a woman wants to wear a crop top and a short skirt and she's going to the club, that's the kind of outfit they wear at the club. Also, what is the definition of inappropriate dressing? Sorry, let me get the exact words that they used. They said cloths where they show everywhere for your body. What is the definition of cloths where they show everywhere for your body?
Everywhere implies naked. So if you have clothes that are showing everywhere, then you're
Do you know that
naked.
This thing has the potential to lead to abuse on the part of Nigerian police? You know how they are and how they blow things out of proportion. Next thing now, you'll be wearing an off-shoulder outfit. A policeman that's attending a scripture union fellowship will then decide that, you know, this is an inappropriate dressing because it's something that doesn't sit with him, and then we decide to enforce punishment on you. Instead of them to look at the areas that need, the issues that need to be handled, they have challenges with
kidnapping,
you know, yes,
security.
The public police, the PRO will tell you that, oh, things are blown out of proportion, but there are other issues that need to be, is this really the priority of the Nigerian police, how they dress? And let's call it what it is, how women dress, because if we're being honest, that thing is not targeted against men. the priority of the police is how women dress, the police in Delta State.
It's very, very unfortunate. But it would be nice to have Mr. Bright join us to explain the
logic and the moral
behind it.
They're not the ones who legislated on that.
Yeah, but they're going to enforce, and they seem very happy. They've gone out to bring out to make this flyer so that people are aware. Because if you can go through that step, it means you're ready to enforce.
So you know what that tells me?
So they won't claim ignorance of the law.
What that tells me is, you know, that there's so much work that we need to do. There's so many parties involved in this case. The State House of Assembly needs to go back and check what they're doing in that house. Laws like this, how did this kind of law pass legislation? How did this law become signed? Like, how did this kind of law become approved? So really, our issue is to be policing how people dress. That's our problem in a country that is dealing with high levels of insecurity, poverty. Exactly. All the problems we have is how women dress. That's our problem. We really don't have.
I think they should also give us the guidelines for men. If you know the type of singlet that this guy wears, very dark man, it's very offensive to some people because it barely covers his body. Will that sort of dressing, if you wear singlets like that as a man, does it come under this law? If you're topless in public, if you're urinating in public, if you're sagging...
We could just apply the penal code here now. So we'll just know that, okay, this same thing that happens in northern Nigeria. Let's just apply the penal code, because we know that even with the penal code that has attracted a lot of criticism from, you know, international human rights organizations with how strict, extremely strict, and in some way infringing on the fundamental human rights of citizens are. You know, if you are talking about the strictness of that, and we're seeing this happening in South Nigeria, I really don't know what to say.
The Nigerian police wants to take a cue from Hisba in Kano and Katsina. And
speaking about Hisba, on this show, we've spoken about, and we've had our reporter join us to talk about how people, the so-called Hisba, have infringed on the rights of people, flogging people, beating people in the name of enforcing what the law is. So in a country where we're still struggling with the excesses of the Nigerian police, they are coming to explain a law that says that if you don't dress well, that you'll be arrested. Community service of 50,000.
You know what, in Nigeria, it seems there are different sets of laws depending on your status in society. Because if you see those, the high-ups, the rich people in society, the millionaires and billionaires, they dare not try to enforce that law. If they stop them on their way to the club, they won't. But if they see somebody on a bike or in a tricycle,
that's when you know that there are laws.
That's when the muzzle would stand up.
What a shame. Anyway, we'll look more into this. Hopefully we can get representatives from the House of Assembly and the relevant bodies that have to look at this law. Maybe we should actually take a proper look into the Violence Against All Persons law to see what exactly the law says. In a country that boasts of high moral values, yet there are so many crazy things behind the scene. It just feels very hypocritical of us to do that. And I'm not one who would say that people shouldn't dress well. No. Personally, I think I'm conservative.
There's a time and place for
But there's a time and place. We don't really have time for this nonsense. We have too many problems to deal with than to be policing how women dress. It's such a shame and it's an embarrassment. But let's move on to what our top stories this morning are on Breakfast Central.
Okay, looking at our top stories this morning, Ganduje resigns as APC national chairman.
Why did he resign? You will find out. Some say health, some say politics.
River State Peace Pact.
Well, I saw a video of them. They didn't quite shake. They were at a burial, but let's hope the peace pact is really peace pacting.
And preventing communicable disease.
That will be a package we'll bring to you this morning. I will still be looking ahead of 2027 elections. What to expect? As you can tell, the campaign season is unofficially upon us.
And of course, we'll bring you the newspaper front pages. Feel free to call in and share your thoughts with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly. President Tinubu appears to have brokered peace between the suspended governor of River State, Siminalayi Fubara, and his estranged political godfather, the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom. What began as a quiet power tussle exploded into full-blown chaos, polarizing the State Assembly, leading to the demolition of the legislative complex and culminated in the declaration of a state of emergency by President Tinubu in March.
President Tinubu had on Thursday last week hosted a closed-door meeting at the presidential villa, where present were Nyesom, Siminalayi, Fubara, and key lawmakers. The result? A public truce, smiles, handshakes, and a promise: no more acrimony. Though, according to reports, the peace brokered came with conditions which speculators say may not have completely favored the governor. Though Governor Siminalayi, who continues to appeal to his supporters to accept the peace moves, continues saying that there is no price too big to pay for peace. Let's take a look at this video.
At this point, if you want to be truthful to yourself, not lying to yourself, the only solution is peace. I didn't say that there is no price that is too big to pay for peace. I meant it, and I am still ready to follow you to the end.
To discuss this development is Head of Mission Leadership and Accountability Initiative, Henry Shield Nwanzurahu. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on Breakfast Central.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, you are audible enough. Let's get your thoughts about what is described as a peace that has been brokered between the parties involved. There are speculations as to what the conditions were. Governor Siminalayi has, like you've seen in that video, had to appeal to his people, saying there is no price too big to pay for peace. Do you consider this being the price to pay for peace, or do you think that he has officially been subdued or overwhelmed and enveloped by a hurricane that he probably did not foresee?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. To discuss this rivers issue, we need to call a spade by its name. The constitution and democracy has been trampled upon in rivers, and that needs to be made abundantly clear for anyone or any group of people who are listening and watching this program. Before we delve into the nitty-gritty of the whole settlement and everything, let's accept first that there has been a total desecration of the constitution in the rivers issue. If that has been said, then we'll look at what actually this rivers debacle starts. A governor assumed office on the 29th of May 2023, same day as the president, and in less than 6 months, the House of Assembly, who are loyal to a former governor and present minister, Nyesom, decided that it was time to impeach a man that had been in office for just about 6 months. That was where this whole thing started from. A man resumed in on the 29th of May. You are already planning his impeachment. This was all uncalled for. It was a needless distraction to the government and also to governance in the state. And what happened? The governor decided, okay, the House of Assembly will be disrupted, their proceedings and the rest. Okay, and then we saw in the ongoing fight, 27 lawmakers from the Rivers State House of Assembly publicly declared their defection from the PDP, on which platform they got elected, to the APC. And the law states clearly that once such a defection is done, you lose your seats. Okay? Now, after defecting, and in contravention of the constitution of the country, they went and they proceeded to still be carrying out their sittings and the rest. And the governor said, no, this will not be accepted. This is not acceptable. This will not happen in the state. And their proceedings were kind of disrupted. And 3 other people came up, including the last chief of staff, Edime, became a speaker. There were, I think, about 3 of them or so who now started carrying out the legislative functions for the state. Now, Was this necessary? No. What was the cause of this? It was the Wike's angle of believing that the state belonged to him. It was the Wike's angle of, saying, if it is not my way, then it should be the highway. Because other governors, even those who were helped into office, we saw in Akwa Ibom State, we saw in Delta State, we saw in different states who had godfathers who helped them to become governors. They did not have this kind of overbearing attitude of their godfathers on breathing down their neck and disrupting the business of governance. So we have had, in the last 2 years, let's be clear, we have had to deal with Wike's overestimation of his own importance in the state. We have had to deal with Wike's greed and his overbearing attitude over the state. He is not the first former governor from the state. Wike led Rivers State for 8 years, ruled Rivers State for 8 years. Not once did he allow any such former governor or whatever, or president or anybody breathe down his neck or to decide for him how he was going to govern the state. So why on earth would Wike not have allowed Fubara? And when this started, Fubara decided he was going to fight because it was becoming too much. I'm a governor, you are not allowing me to do things I'm supposed to do. I can't give approval without this. I can't do this without this. Fubara decided, like as a man should do, as any sensible person should do, to assert himself, right? In the process of trying to assert himself, Wike got this and got that and got that, and Fubara became a little bit slow to understand. He began to retract his step. The truth of the matter is, what Tinubu has done, first of all, by imposing the state of emergency on the state, was completely illegal, was in meddling in the affairs of Rivers State against the law, against what the Constitution says. They said, okay, there were bomb blasts or whatever, 2 bomb blasts in the state. Okay, so for that reason, there's insecurity. We're going to declare state of emergency. You took away the powers of the governor, suspended a democratically elected president. You suspended him from office. Now, during this suspension, you did not say, okay, we have increased security in the state. Now there will be no more bomb blasts and everything. The governor can come back. You suspended him for 6 months. It does not take 6 months to arrest people that are trying to bomb anywhere if truly there was anything like insecurity and not an artificially, deliberately caused one by those who wanted the state of emergency to be declared. This is all game to them. And it is affecting governance. It has affected governance in Rivers State. They declared state of emergency. And within the time they declared state of emergency, and I want Nigerians and the general public to take note of this, right? The governor submitted a budget of 1.4 billion, for 2025. And it was still in the works when a sole administrator was appointed for the state, who now submitted a budget of 1.9 billion naira. First and foremost, the job of a sole administrator, if at all, should have been to come in, stabilize the state, ensure there is peace, and leave. Now going to extend the budget from 1.4 that the governor that was elected presented to 1.9 billion naira. That's number one. Number two, he set up structures in all the local government areas of Rivers State. Went ahead, proceeded to start appointing members of the Rivers State State Electoral Commission. Why will an unelected military administrator have a business with setting up democratic structures that will get people elected in position in the state? It shows you the intentions. It shows you the motive of Aso by declaring, what do you call it? By declaring state of emergency in the state. They have totally crippled Fubara. Now,
Henry, if I may come in at this point, thank you very much for setting up the background to our discussion this morning and taking us down memory lane as to how this crisis began in the first place. Now, looking at the situation as it is today, present day Rivers State, Nigeria, just over the weekend, apart from the visit to the presidential villa, where the president, saw this peace deal. And we've seen images of both parties shaking hands, and it looks like all is well. Beyond that, they also took it further. Over the weekend, suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara was seen with Martin Amewule and Nyesom, the FCT minister, at the funeral of FCT minister's uncle. So it seems all is well. Now that the president has settled the crisis, it seems all is well in Rivers State now. Do you expect the sole administrator to complete, or the suspended governor to complete the 6-month suspension and return to power in September, or should we start the process of handing over the state, of recalling the sole administrator and returning Governor Siminalayi Fubara to Government House in Port Harcourt? Do we expect to see that anytime soon?
Well, yes, I expect that now that they have gotten what they were looking for, they will now allow Fubara to go, because they've taken over everything from him. They've taken over the local government. How can a governor be without having anybody in the local government, without having his own people, without having control over the administration of the local government areas in the state? That's number one. Number two, you made an important thing. You said now you saw them shaking hands and, saying everything has been, the issue has been sorted out and settled. Let me be very, very clear on this national TV. Let me be very clear, right? They wanted a slave as governor of Rivers State. So what you saw over the weekend was the acceptance of Fubara to be exactly what they wanted him to be. Now you saw him, after that so-called mediation, following Wike as a PA to attend his uncle or his cousin's burial in Rivers. That is the governor of a state. Now following behind, and then Wike entered into the owner's corner of the car, and Fubara entered like a friend. That's supposed to be the governor of a state. They wanted a slave as governor of Rivers so that they can be in control of both the resources and the administration of the state. And unfortunately, Fubara has fallen for them and has become that lapdog that they're looking for. What he will be there now is just to be a ceremonial governor, a ceremonial head in Rivers State. Rivers does not have a governor in Fubara anymore. What they have is someone that will go back to the old agreement of whatever I want to do. I need to go and get my boss's approval. You can see the governor and what do you call it? You can see the body language of the governor. He has been succumbed. He has been defeated psychologically, mentally. He has accepted things that are not even in the interest of Rivers people. So let's not say that there's any amicable settlement. No, what they've done is to remove all the powers he has or he's entitled to as a governor, and what they have now is a slave as their governor that they will dictate to as they want. This is my own personal opinion, and that is the way that I see it.
I mean, from that video that we saw whilst you were speaking, we saw the governor walking, him and the former governor. There was like maybe a slight nod. He got to his seat, exchanged handshake with Martin Amewule. Didn't exchange handshake with him. Some would interpret that as well as the governor being subdued. But what does this mean for the people of Rivers State? The people who swore their allegiance or who voted in Governor Siminalayi Fubara, who gave him his vote. What does this mean for the people who have stood by him through this whole ordeal? He's asked them, I mean, in that video, the video we played at the start of the conversation, he said nobody can take away the role that his Oga played in all of this. Do you think that the people of Rivers State will be disappointed in the governor for how he has handled all of this?
What it means for the people of Rivers, right, is that their will, their voices, their cries, their aspirations, their dreams do no longer matter in the affairs of things, in the scheme of things. Wike is now fully back in charge. So you are having an extension of Wike's 8 years as governor. You are having an extension of 4 years. Now, the people of Rivers in this whole thing do not come into play. Not from the president, not from Wike, and definitely not even from Fubara himself, because if he had the interest of the people at heart, by now, he will make public everything that these people are requesting you to do. Now there are feelers in public that are saying, okay, it was agreed that you will only do one term and you will not seek a re-election. How on God's head do you deny a duly elected governor his constitutional right to seek a re-election? How? Can someone say that to Tinubu? When Wike was governor of Rivers, could anybody have said that to him? No, no. So these are very criminal agreements. You cannot, you should not tell a governor or any Nigerian at all that they cannot seek re-election if they've been in office after 4 years as permitted by the Constitution. That's number one. Number two is that it will not have any candidate for the local government elections that are coming on soon. Listen, the whole agreement that was done to bring this peace is undemocratic, and I am surprised that the PDP is allowing one of his own to be trampled upon this way. How do you tell a governor that the local government structure will go back to the governor that left, the former governor? How? This is a total surrender of the state to Tinubu and to Wike, a complete surrender, a total annihilation of the people's resources and their will and their voices and everything. They were not. You can see the happiness in Wike's faces. You saw the whole joy and everything. They have conquered Rivers as they wanted to do, and they now have a governor that is ready to play ball with them. I will not accept conditions. I will leave the government house and tell them to take power. Let them extend
that brings me.
They hijacked power from the people of Rivers.
And that brings me to this question: the Human Rights Association, Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria, Huriwa, insists Fubara should have gone to court instead of accepting the second peace deal. I mean, if you were in a situation, what options were really left for Mr. Fubara? I'm sure he has weighed his cards, he has seen the people he was up against. What could he have really done given the circumstances and the situation he finds himself today? And also watching his fellow PDP governors that don't have issues with the central government decamping and declaring support for President Tinubu left, right, and center. What realistic things could he have done otherwise? Or should he have gone to court like Huriwa has suggested?
As presently constituted, this is sad to say, but it is the truth, all right? Nigeria does not have an independent judiciary. As presently constituted, let's not lie, let's not deceive ourselves, and let's call a spade a spade. When the matters were still in the high courts, the appeal court, and everything, Wike kept telling people that they should not worry, they will come back. He already knows, or rather he knew what was going to come up from the Supreme Court. Now, several matters were before the Supreme Court, right? Just the one that the Supreme Court handled. They left the issue that was going to make a declaration on the defection of those 27 House of Assembly members. Meaning that our judiciary as of today is in bed with the government. Completely and totally in bed with the government. What could Fubara have done? What Fubara could have done was what he should have done from the beginning. He should not have allowed Wike this breathing space to have overshadowed him and overwhelmed him as the governor of the state. You have led for 8 years. 8 good years. Nobody disturbed you. No former governor, no president, no minister disturbed you. You had your time as elected governor for 8 years. Why on earth can't I have my own time as governor of Rivers? You said I'm dismantling your structures or something. You are a minister in the FCT. Focus on the FCT. What Fubara has done, according to what Uriwa said, and in support of what Uriwa has stated, Fubara should have gone to court. Fubara should have even made the Supreme Court to address the second leg of the petition that made him become powerless in the state. And it is dangerous. It is a serious danger for us as a people, as citizens, including you guys in the studio, that we have a judiciary that is now more political than judicial in their declarations. We need to start having the judiciary get the citizens to have confidence in them. Look at the declaration they gave about Labour Party in at the Supreme Court. Very unclear. Look at what they gave in the matter of the PDP at the Supreme Court. Very unclear. Look at what they gave in the issue of Rivers State. Very, very confusing judgment from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court used to be the court that when you go there, issues are finally laid to rest. Not more confusions created. What we have now are more confusions arising from the what do you call it? From the Supreme Court. So we're having more confusions, we're having more distractions, where we don't even know where we stand. Today now, we don't know if people should defect, will they still maintain their seats? We don't know. The Supreme Court just brought more confusion that has now favored Wike. And people keep saying, Wike does not lose any case in the court. Wike has the judiciary. He doesn't lose any case in... This is Nigeria. This is not the United Kingdom of Wike's dynasty. We should be worried and we should be focused on that. Why is the judiciary making itself an instrument in the hands of politicians? These are not even politicians who are after the good of the people, but for their own selfish interest. Why would a former governor, an ex-governor, a retired governor, not allow the new governor to operate? What are you settling between a former governor and a new governor? The issue is simple. Let the new governor be governor. Let the minister be minister. What is all this issue we are bringing them? We want to make a truce. Truce between what? There are no two governors in Rivers. There is only one governor in Rivers. His name is Siminalayi Fubara.
When you were speaking earlier, you talked about how you were disappointed in the fact that the PDP will allow one of their own to act in this manner. What do you expect the PDP to have done?
Absolutely. What do I expect that PDP should have done?
Yes.
Number one is that it is very clear that this is a political game being played by Aso Rock and Wike against Rivers State. One is that beyond going to court, there are also other strategies that could be deployed to ensure that it does not even get to the point where you are going to have to declare a state of emergency. Listen, if the governors had insisted that we will not accept this state of emergency in any of our states for artificial crises that are caused by political players, the governors all kept quiet throughout this instance. They all did like it didn't matter. They left Fubara, and now Fubara has been thrown under the bus. Fubara also has come out to realize he's on his own. He has also decided to throw his own followers under the bus, saying there's nothing like Sim anymore, Sim whatever anymore. We are all now under Wike. How is this possible in a democracy? How is the minister, a former governor, able to get a whole governor to succumb and surrender everything about the administration of the state to him? The PDP governors, the PDP leadership failed completely. They left Fubara to fight this fight alone, knowing that Fubara is a novice, a complete novice, someone that is new to executive powers. And it was deliberate on the part of Wike, just like Tinubu did in Lagos, making sure that those who succeeded him are people from the civil service or whatever, and not call politicians that have structures. So that when you want to fight them, you fight them plainly. They have no structure, they have to rely on your own structure for their re-election. This is what has happened again in Rivers State. Wike made sure that all the people that wanted to run for governor after him, that had political structures that were called politicians, he did not allow them to get tickets. He made sure it was Fubara because he knew Fubara would be a novice without any structure, and that is what is playing out at the detriment of governance in Rivers State. At the detriment of governance in Rivers State. Governance has been suspended since this House of Assembly decided.
We have to, of course, wrap up the conversation now. Henry Shield Umazurahu, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We could see the passion with which you've been speaking about the challenges in Rivers State. Again, we always say this on the show that what is important to us is that governance is placed in the front seat, and politics, or like some will call it politics, should be shoved to a corner. But thank you so much for joining us. And
thanks for your time, Henry.
Thank you for your time. Across the world, climate change remains one of the biggest threats to livelihoods, agriculture, and national stability. In Nigeria, desertification is advancing, weather patterns are changing, and communities are facing harsher living conditions, particularly in the north and around oil-producing regions. One of the driving forces behind this crisis is methane, a greenhouse gas that's quietly accelerating climate change far faster than carbon dioxide. News Central's Sagir Ibrahim brings details in this explainer.
I'm sure you heard about the flooding incident in Mokwa, Niger State, where unfortunately figures show that over 700 individuals are missing. You might also have heard about recent attacks and farmer herders clashes in Benue State. There's also the issue of heat waves up north and also sandstorms becoming a norm. But all of this, according to experts, can be traced to climate change and the major culprit, an increase in emissions of methane. What is methane gas? Let's explain it to you.
Methane is a powerful but invisible gas. Though less talked about than carbon dioxide, it traps 80 times more heat in the short term, and it's a major driver of extreme weather, heat waves, and flooding. In Nigeria, the energy sector, especially oil and gas, accounts for over a third of methane emissions, mostly from gas flaring and venting.
Methane emissions are very, very important for us to control and to understand when it comes to fighting climate change. It's silent, it's odorless, colorless, you can hardly detect it, but the damage it causes is quite intense.
Until recently, tracking these emissions was almost impossible. But in 2023, a new standard from the global EITI framework implemented by NATI in Nigeria finally forced oil companies to report their emissions. 15 companies responded, including major players like Chevron and Mobil, but more than 47 others failed to disclose any data, raising concerns about compliance and transparency.
In 2023, 80 updated the standards, and for the first time, we now have disaggregated GHG emissions at company level that we can now track and monitor to see how much progress we are making when it comes to methane emission reductions in Nigeria.
Some disclosures are promising. However, anomalies remain despite these corporations' net zero pledges.
We would like to see more compliance, and that's why we call on industry regulators to ensure that oil and gas companies in the sector begin to comply with making this data available to the public.
But how does this affect the everyday Nigerian? From extreme heat and crop failures to violent displacement, methane-driven climate change is already hitting home.
We now have more flood because of the increased temperature. We now have increased rainfalls, coupled with our own local infrastructural challenges. We have more stronger winds, higher winds that are causing havoc, destroying homes, destroying houses. Heat strokes are very, very dangerous. In Africa, there were several heat strokes in 2023, which increased in 2024. We also have challenges in the agriculture, with increase in temperature, agricultural output, which means that food security in Nigeria, which is a problem, that also be a bigger problem.
Even herder-farmer clashes are linked to methane-driven desertification.
There is a desertification in northern Nigeria, and because of that, available land for grazing is reducing. So we now have farmer herders moving down southward. These now begin to manifest in clashes between genuine herders and farmers because of the contest for limited resources.
Beyond NATI's effort, Nigeria has frameworks like the Nigeria Gas Decarbonization Program. But without full enforcement, these policies remain words on paper. Satellite tracking and civil society watchdog may soon play a bigger role in exposing companies that underreport or dodge responsibility.
We can now compare that data with satellite imagery, satellite data, then we can now hold more people accountable and ensure that they comply with emission reduction standards.
So, while floods, heat waves, and food insecurity may seem like separate problems, they all share a root cause: rising emissions, and methane is a silent driver. The challenge now is for Nigeria to match its climate pledges with real policy enforcement, because when the air we can't see becomes the danger we can't control, every second counts. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
Excellent reporting there, and really enjoyed learning more about methane gas. I think that these are conversations that we should have more about.
I'm sure some of your friends in the UK have been complaining about the heat wave, and in parts of America too. But when Nigerians do that there, I find it a bit cringy.
Why? Because
you're not used to heat. What do you mean by it's kind of hot at 23 degrees?
The thing is, their body has adjusted to the temperature there.
And most of them don't even have air conditioning.
Just 2 weeks of staying in the UK. The moment I get to the airport like this, everywhere's feeling hot.
It's hot. And your accent changes,
my
isn't it?
accent don't usually change, isn't it?
Okay.
But poverty conversations also impact how much awareness can come to issues and conversations about climate change. Even when you're talking about plastic, you're talking about single-use plastic and telling people that it takes 500 years, it takes about 500 years for one plastic bottle to break down, and even at that, it doesn't break down completely. It breaks down to microplastics, and those microplastics are absorbed by the soil. If they get into the water, the fish consumes them. We eat the fish. It's just a really vicious cycle.
How are you adjusting to taking your own bags to the groceries, or you pay?
2 days ago, I went to buy something at one of the stores, and they're like, "Oh, should we add a bag?" I said, "No, I'll carry it in my hand." I carried 3 things in my hand to my car.
I love what you're doing for the planet. Kudos to you.
Kudos to you.
You're still watching Breakfast Central. We have quite a lot for you today. Now, coming up on Breakfast Central this morning, APC National Chairman Umar Ganduje resigns and hands over to Abdullahi. Presidential zoning, democracy, and Nigeria's unity will be looking ahead of 2027 elections. And our professionals call for vaccine access in Plateau State. Stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
The national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, resigned as chairman of the ruling party. Ganduje, who took over as APC chairman in August 2023, tendered his resignation on Friday. His letter, according to sources, emphasized the need to focus on personal well-being. But the political undercurrents tell a far more complex story. Just hours before stepping down, Ganduje was seen leading a high-profile condolence visit and attending a political consultative meeting in Abuja. Some loyalists of the immediate past national chairman of the APC have decried his resignation, saying that it will not augur well for the party.
Meanwhile, there's speculations that the APC national chairman quit his position over an alleged possible move by Rabiu Kwankwaso, former governor of Kano State, to join the APC. All this come as a group in the north-central region of the party have also demanded the party chairmanship is zoned to the region. What exactly is going on within the ranks of the ruling All Progressive Congress? Join us this morning on Breakfast Central for this discussion is Publicity Secretary of the All Progressive Congress, Mr. Felix Morka. Also joining us is the Publicity Secretary of the New Nigerian People's Party, Mr. Ladipo Johnson. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. A warm welcome to you both. I'd like to start with Mr. Felix Morka. It's very great of you to join us this morning, and to put an end to speculations. Many are saying the immediate past chairman of the APC, Dr. Umar Ganduje, did resign because he's making a way for the return of Rabiu Kwankwaso to the fold of the party. Could you give us the true state of things and clear the air for us and what led to his resignation? Many people weren't expecting this.
Well, I guess that's the whole essence of change. Change does not make announcements quite often. It just happens. The resignation of our now former national chairman, Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, has been explained by himself in his letter, as you just rightly mentioned. He told us that he needed to leave to attend to urgent and important personal matters. Now, once we received that letter and it was verified, confirmed that he indeed had resigned, what we do as a political party is not to sit back and speculate further as to reasons why he may have resigned. We simply begin to grapple with that transition that is, now announced. And that's exactly what we're doing. And in my statement, I was very clear that we're now in consultation to summon the next meeting of a party that has the authority to replace this, outgone chairman, to convene and meet and deliberate and, hopefully decide on his successor. So look, I am not able to go outside of the reasons provided by the individual concerned to speculate as to other possible reasons. Now, by the way, I have, been treated to all kinds of suggestions. I've seen what's going on, all the speculations, from one topic to the other about why he may have resigned. But look, as a party, all of that is irrelevant to us. Our focus right now is exclusively on, choosing a replacement, which I think we hope it will happen imminently.
All right, thank you for sort of laying that to rest. We'll still come back to talk about what the next steps might be. But let's bring in Mr. Ladipo into the conversation. Just my colleague asked earlier, there's speculations about Rabiu Kwankwaso moving to the All Progressives Congress. Do you have any information about that? Do you know if this is happening? Is it confirmed? Is it a speculation as well?
Thank you. Good morning. Well, these are just what you said they are, speculations. And I have learned of everything over the internet, on pages of newspapers. I believe that with time, we will know. It is the internal affairs of the APC. And as Mr. Walker has said, they're in the process of replacing the national chairman. And then I think things will move forward from there. We, as a party, have not heard anything. I've said it several times. There's been no official communication with us. But Rabiu Kwankwaso, as a person, I do not know whether he has been approached or not. He hasn't said anything to us, the National Working Committee, about leaving the party or about being in talks with anyone. But I believe that we're 2 years away from elections, and the Electoral Act, et cetera, has made politicking. We have a longer period now, because by next year, the candidates, next year, maybe June or so, July, the candidates have to emerge. So you can see that now I understand the context in which we have all these permutations, rumors, and what have you. But our position, the truthful position, is that we the NNPP, realize that there are basically three options still open to us. That is whether we remain as NNPP, whether we join some form of, two options, some form of coalition or merger. Now, whether it's the APC or the one going on with El-Rufai or any other one, no one knows. But definitely, we have started the process as well to come together to start to consider 2027.
All right, I want Mr. Moka to answer the same question as well. You said you don't have any official memo. Mr. Moka, you know, as it is in Nigeria's political space, there really isn't any fire without a smoke. Have there been any conversations about Rabiu Kwankwaso coming to your party? Have any conversations happened that you're aware of?
I'm surprised you're asking me this question.
I mean, it's a valid question. We've seen the wave of defections and different people moving to your party.
I was saying that my brother, who is from NNPP, has answered that question very eloquently. I mean, if he is, calling it speculative, you can imagine what I would call it. We in the APC, I do not have any information about the status, or even for that matter, of the interest of Alhaji Kwankwaso about any possible intention to join our party. But we don't, again, we deal with only live questions where, our doors are open to all Nigerians who may choose to join our party. When anyone indicates interest, whether they're the, governors or, assembly members or national assembly members or, for that matter, everyday citizens of this country, our doors are open and we welcome people into our party. So if Dr. Kwankwaso decided to join our party, we will, again, trigger our procedures to, receive him. We don't have any code that excludes anyone from joining our party. But as I sit here speaking, I can speak to that because I have absolutely no information about such interests.
Fair enough, Mr. Morka. Now, the people have started jostling for the position of national chairman just even before the ink on Dr. Ganduje's resignation letter dried. The North Central All Progressive Congress Forum has endorsed a former governor of Nasarawa State, Alhaji Tanko Amakura, for the position of national chairman of the party. What's the party's position on filling the gap or on a long-term basis? Would it be zoned to a particular area of the country, and what's the process, and when do we expect a permanent replacement?
Well, yes, I'm very aware of the agitations and clamor by our members and leaders from the North Central zone to produce the national chairman, especially the successor to if there was a vacancy as we now have. I'm very aware of that. And, they're within their right to make such requests or make such demands or agitate to be, enabled to fill that vacancy. That is normal. And, other regions also may be, looking at it. Because the politicians who are party people who have every constitutional freedom to aspire to fill positions. But all of that, again, neither here nor there. What counts is that when the neck of our party convenes, they will take a critical look at all of the arguments, whether it's arguments of fairness, of inclusion, of equity, all of the other considerations will be put on the table, discussed, and hopefully an acceptable decision, is made. That will then, as I said, enable us to build, forward stronger from this, transition.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing that. We look forward to seeing what the next steps are. But also just to follow up, how would you say that his tenure as leading the All Progressives Congress was? There were, there are those who would say that it was marked with a lot of controversies, but how would you say that his tenure was, the strength of his leadership and your expectations for whoever is going to fill in the shoes is left behind?
Dr. Ganduje was a remarkable chairman. He led the party to a lot of electoral victories, to expanding the party rapidly, to propagating the ideals of the party. He led the process for the creation of our Democratic Institute, which is playing an important role going forward, building understanding of democracy, of deepening understanding of our own ideological leanings. So he's really laid down quite some impressive accomplishments. I mean, look at the recent influx of leaders and members from across political parties and the general society into our party. He was a tireless national chairman, really worked night and day to increase the fortunes of our party. So we really wish him well in his future endeavors. He was a pleasant fellow to work with.
Thank you, Mr. Morka. Now, back to you, Mr. Ladipo Johnson. The last time we had you on Breakfast Central, there were still internal wranglings within the ranks of the ANPP. I just want you to keep us up to date with developments within your party, if you've been able to resolve it, and the current position of the party to challenge the APC as we inch towards 2027. I do understand that Mr. Morka is online, and I hope you won't be revealing some trade secrets to the APC. Please go ahead.
No, there are no secrets to reveal. I have said time without number that internally we are okay. You always have now and again, especially as you approach elections, people who move from one party to the other, especially in our jurisdiction. You have that happening. They may do that because they might feel they've reached the pinnacle about where they could reach in within a particular party, and they want to move out to another party. So yes, we had a few people, especially the senator for Kano South and one or two people from the House of Representatives who moved out of the party to the APC, all from Kano, which is understandable. But internally, we're fine. The national chairman, Dr. Ahmed Ajuji, is the national chairman. The national working committee is in place. We're working towards 2027. Next year, we'll have our congresses and our convention. And who knows, I might no longer be the publicity secretary. But yeah, we're working towards it. So we're fine. We're about to start the process, as I said, really towards 2027. And there we will be taking decisions. And there you will now consider whether you'll be having a merger, coalition, accord, whatever the name is. All you want to do is to make sure that you strengthen your base, build bridges, and try to bring good governance to the people of Nigeria. But let me reiterate that immediately after the 2023 elections, we made it clear that we were open to talking to any Nigerian, any movement, any group, any party that seeks to better the lot of Nigerians. We're open to talking to them to see whether we could have a similar platform. When I say platform, I'm talking about manifesto and things we want to do for the masses of the country. Because as you know, we are, as a team, we are slightly left of center. Healthcare, education, these things are very important to us. And of course, things like security and the economy as well. Right. We're in that process, and we will. And yes, you've had rumors everywhere. I'm going back to the main thing about whether Kwankwaso is crossing to the APC, or whether they want to offer him a vice presidential slot, or what have you. The Yorubas have a proverb. Permit me. They say, "Enitombe baba kingaru." That means that anyone who's going to receive the bride doesn't have to stretch to look. Just wait at the right time. We all know what is happening going towards 2027, and it will be soon, I'm sure.
Okay. I know I had asked you this question before when we had a conversation with you, but I want to ask you again. And I'm asking because while you say that we haven't had any official communique from the NNPP regarding the possibility or the potential of Rabiu Kwankwaso to move to the APC, we know that in Nigeria there's no fire without a smoke. We've seen it happen many times. We saw it in Delta State when Charles Aniagu, months or weeks before, had said that there was no way they were moving to the APC. Lo and behold, they've all moved to the APC now. Him, the current governor, the former governor of Delta State. So we've seen this play out in several scenarios in Nigeria. Should we confirm in the next couple of days or weeks that Alhaji Rabiu Kwankwaso has officially moved to the APC, what impact do you think this will have on the NNPP?
It would depend. It would depend on how he moves. If, for instance, he is approached, I believe that he will then call, there's a caucus, he will call a meeting of the caucus, or come all the way to the National Working Committee meeting, ask the national chairman for permission to meet with us and talk about what has been offered or what is going on. When he does that, then the National Working Committee, the national chairman in turn, will summon a meeting of the NEC to say that one of our top members, or the top member, says he wants to move, etc., etc. So he has to do his work to move the people along. And then it depends. Even if they say he should come, are they asking him to collapse the NNPP? Or are they saying, look, let's work together? There's nothing stopping you from having, look at the Minister for the Federal Capital Territory. He's still within the PDP, yet he's holding a ministerial slot. Now, so that could be a scenario if it actually happens. It could be, okay, yes, the NNPP is still there, but this individual is working in a sort of loose coalition or loose accord with the APC. So that is, even with the other coalition that is out there or others that could come, we would now determine the working relationship. It might not necessarily be collapsing the entire NNPP into one party or the other.
Thank you for honestly answering that question, Mr. Johnson. Now, if you look at the current political climate and the state of opposition in Nigeria, it seems one party or the other is in they have internal wranglings and crisis, as some have described it. Even the SDP, that people thought was calm and had his house in order, we've seen what has played out in the recent past. And there's also a school of thought that believes that the ruling party, the All Progressive Congress, has a hand to play in destabilizing some of these opposition parties so that it would have a clean sweep at the polls and they won't be able, like they say, the house divided cannot stand on its own. Do you give any credence to that school of thoughts, or do you think, this crisis in opposition parties, that they are a doing of the parties and that the APC is not a convenient boogeyman in this situation?
I consider this a trick question, actually, because I had said in the past, you will recall, that yes, people are saying this, but where it concerns us, we, for instance, we had people who have been expelled from the party, and I had said that yes, we felt that some people within the APC were instigating these former members of the NNPP, So if you look at it, I like to say things as they are. If you look at it, look at what has happened within the PDP vis-a-vis the Minister for the Federal Capital Territory, you will see that there's some sort of truth in it. But then again, it's not the duty of the APC to make sure that the opposition are sitting well. It is our duty as opposition parties to make sure that we do our best to keep our house in order, or our houses in order, sorry, notwithstanding the fact that the APC is trying to spread its tentacles even further and get more people into their fold. So that is the balancing act that has to happen. You don't, when you are attacked, I'm not calling them robbers, I'm just using like a metaphor. When your house is attacked by a robber today, and you still leave it porous security-wise, then they'll attack tomorrow. They won't stop. But when you get some Rottweilers and put in your yard or whatever, it might stop them. So that is the job of the opposition party. We have to do that. And we have fought some battles, and I think legally we're fine. we're on good ground now, good solid ground, and we hope to move forward. Whichever way, whatever will happen, we don't know yet.
All right. Welcome back, Mr. Morka. Let's talk about the expectations for Dalori. Do you perceive that he will have to be a unifier while he's, in this role temporarily, with Northwest wanting, vice presidency, North Central? Of course, it seems like there are different zones that are clamoring for different positions, wanting chairmanship. Do you perceive that he'll be able to serve as a unifier for the time being?
Now, I was saying that Dalori is an experienced politician. He's been state chairman. He's held all kinds of positions. So he comes to this job as acting national chairman with, a clear head and understanding of what is required of him. Don't forget, he's been in the position of the deputy national chairman now for quite some time now, since 2023. So he's also garnered some experience of how the business of the party works. So we expect that he will lead the party in transition until our next meeting concludes, where we expect a new national chairman to be selected. So yes, we're very comfortable with Dalori as acting national chairman, and I'm sure he's going to steer the party in the direction to prepare the ground for the substantive national chairman to emerge.
All right. I think a final question. We had spoken to Mr. Ladipo Johnson about this, but I want you to also speak to that. For those who say that the APC is subconsciously or subtly destabilizing opposition to ensure that they solidify their force for 2027, what will your response to people who argue about that be?
Members of the opposition who say that obviously are like, bad workmen that blame the tools. We're too busy running our party to have time to destabilize anyone. We're not destabilizing any opposition political parties. They're simply making excuses for their inability to gain control of their internal affairs, strengthen their own systems of leadership. I mean, take the PDP, for instance. I mean, look at what's going on. Even I believe it was yesterday or so with parallel meetings and all of that. This is simply not APC.
But Mr. Morka, if I may come in here, over the Salah holidays,
who are responsible for this?
Over the Salah holidays, we saw leading politicians and opposition parties hobnobbing with Mr. President, paying him a visit in his private residence in Ikoyi, Lagos. Don't you think that's part of the destabilization process? Because they wouldn't visit if they weren't invited in the first place.
Now, you have concluded that the person that they were invited, rather than even request a meeting. We don't know. You can't say that. So I think.
I mean, we're talking about the president and commander in chief.
They were lured to come to the meeting.
All right, gentlemen.
Look,
yes.
Now, there's no individual who.
Yes, please go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
I'm getting too many interruptions, so.
Yeah, sorry, there's some sort of a delay.
There's no individual who. There's no individual who visited with the president who is not a serious Nigerian. And to get a clearance to have such meetings requires, some presentation. All of these citizens are respectable people who have very strong opinions, who are, accomplished men and women. So, I don't think we should casualize this by suggesting that they were just sitting somewhere and somebody bundled them to a meeting with the president. These are people who decided to meet with the president. They wouldn't meet with the president if they also did not accept those invitations or did not request to meet with the president. So I think we should be, a bit guided, when we make these declarations, as if, the president is going to people's homes to capture them to come into a meeting. That's not the case, because that's also not fair on these citizens who are meeting with the president. They are respectable Nigerians, and we should, I think, give that to them. Having said that, I will add that the party, either the president or the party, is in the business of cajoling anyone to join our party. People cannot be cajoled. Even people who are not as eminent as that can be controlled. People vote in districts. You saw in Lagos, even in the president's district, where people went out to vote and voted, against a party or other parties. Nigerians are very discerning people. They do what they think is best for them. And I think that we should grant that facility, not just to the leaders, but to everyone, quite frankly, who exercises their freedom to choose one way or the other, whether to choose APC or not, or to choose, other parties for that matter. We don't begrudge them. And you see, let me say this, we have a transition in our party now, where our national chairman resigned. We have not, as a party, accused or pointed fingers at any opposition party for instigating this transition. We don't do that. We mind our business, they should mind theirs as well.
Okay.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. We certainly wish all the best to both parties, the APC, the NNPP, and more importantly, God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. We'll go on a very quick break, and when we come back, we have more conversations this morning on Breakfast Central. Do stay with us.
Nigeria is a multinational state that operates an unwritten rotational presidency within its major geographical zones. This unwritten arrangement has played a key role in determining who emerges as president in the largest ethno-religious sensitive nation. A gentleman's agreement, as it's called, the concept of zoning has been a major cause of controversy in Nigeria's political landscape, threatening the unity of the nation.
Now let's tell you a little of what you should know about the history of Nigeria's presidential zoning using mostly AI-generated illustrations. Now this first image, you will see that zoning originated in the Second Republic after the 1967 to 1970 Civil War, when the National Party of Nigeria began rotating key party positions to promote ethnic balance and national unity. Now in this second image, you will see how it's evolved in 1994 to 1995. Abacha era, power rotation was considered among the 6 geopolitical zones, though it seemed to have settled on a north-south altercation. Now, in 1999, the PDP codified this practice, initiating its 4th Republic legacy, Southwest Christian Obasanjo, that's 1999 to 2007, then North Muslim Yar'Adua, 2007 to 2010, followed unexpectedly by South-South Christian Goodluck Jonathan, 2010 to 2015, that's of course after Yar'Adua's death. And Jonathan's continuation into 2011 was said to have broken the agreement and stirred northern dissent. Now, if you see here in this fourth image, the emergence of APC in 2015 saw Buhari's North presidency, that's 2015 to 2023, and then a return to the South with Tinubu in 2023, reaffirming the pattern of alternating the top office. However, many argue that the Southeast should have had its chance, and should be considered next. To join us in this discourse is constitutional lawyer Evans Ufeli. Good morning, Mr. Ufeli. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Mr. Ufeli.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
All right. I don't know if my producers can
Very well.
bring back the tweet. The first tweet we showed today responding to the video of former President Goodluck Jonathan's explanation. There was a first tweet we took that was blaming him in the role that he played. I'm hoping that I can have that tweet up. But let's hear from Mr. Ufeli your thoughts regarding the concept of zoning. That those that would say it's a gentleman's agreement, it's not democratic, and in fact it infringes on Nigeria's democracy as it should be. There are others who say that that is what ensures the smooth flow of Nigeria's political landscape. But let's get your thoughts on the concept of zoning and the legality otherwise of it.
Well, the concept of zoning, we cannot say it's not democratic. Okay, because the Constitution says in section 14, subsection 3, that the economy of Nigeria must be steered in such a way that, and the appointments and all must be steered in such a way that there will be a widespread integration so that every corner of the country is evenly represented, you know, at all circles. This is because of our ethnic divide and our history of diversity, okay? So that history made it mandatory in a way that even when political party constitutes, they constitute themselves in such a way that leadership of the political party is spread across the country. Because if you don't do it that way, there will be agitations. I mean, one of the remote causes of the Nigerian civil war has to do with ethnicity and diversity. Okay? I mean, the immediate causes a lot of people talk about the Abdullahi Accord, the lack of implementation and the rest of that. But you see that this thing, as simple as it stands, has caused us a civil war. Okay? Because of the lack of cohesion and integration. So I do not agree that it's not democratic. I think it is democratic.
All right.
Even though democracy is supposed to be played on the basis of merit. People are supposed to earn, you know, their positions and appointments through, you know, merit. But you cannot pursue that idea of merit and neglect the ethnic.
All right. We have to go on a very quick break, Mr. Ufeli. If you could give us a few seconds, we'll go on a very quick break. And when we come back, we'll still be looking into the concept of zoning. You've said that it's not undemocratic, but we'll delve in deeper into the conversation after this break. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still looking at the zoning agreement and the constitutionality or otherwise of it. Earlier today, we played a video of former President Goodluck Jonathan talking about what happened when President Yar'Adua was sick and had given a letter that was meant to be sent to the National Assembly, but one of his aides held the letter back. But in reaction to that, someone put out a tweet, and I want Mr. Evans Ufeli to respond to the tweet. If our producers can please put the tweet up, still talking about the zoning agreement and laying blames on President Goodluck Jonathan. Can the producers please put the tweet up so we can have it read out, and then Mr. Ufeli can react to it. Mr. Ufeli, are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay. Seeing as, all right, in the tweet there was a lot of blame. It says, Jonathan, you are the problem. You were not supposed to run in 2011. It was a turn of the North. Using the PDP machinery which you controlled as a substantive president, you staged a democratic coup against the aspirations of Northern Nigeria, her people and politicians, and stole the PDP ticket for 2011. I also have a blame for the Southeast and South and the Eastern Middle Belt PDP who encouraged your greedy ambition. Jonathan, I have on good authority that you were scheming to be president even before Yar'Adua died. Little wonder Bola Tinubu, Chibuike Amechi, Atiku Abubakar, Rabiu Kwankwaso, Kawu Baraje saw through your game, impending instability, and switched to support Buhari, whom he despised and hated so much, and you got pulled down. Nigeria has not recovered from the mess your greed brought upon, and now APC is destroying the little of what is left from Buhari to Bola Tinubu. Bola Tinubu is a terrible leader, but you made it possible for APC to have a shot at power and sowed the seed that destroyed the PDP, once the biggest and most formidable political party in the whole of Africa. And I want you to respond to this, because again, it's the issue of zoning, that it should have been the turn of the North, but that President Goodluck Jonathan manipulated it with the instrument of being in office to come out, and then that has destabilized the arrangement as it should be.
Well, those who hold that thought and that idea forgot that just took a stroke on the arrangement. That is, Yar'Adua, died, and after his death, Jonathan had to, by the provision of the Constitution, had to complete that term, and then decide to contest, okay, as an incumbent, okay. So what they are saying, in effect, that Jonathan ought not to have contested because the North have been completed their 8 years. Well, as much as that is right, that is correct, okay, because at that time I remember that so many persons raised issue on the matter under reference. And I've said that if Jonathan goes ahead to do what he's about to do, then it will mean that the chain of causation, the arrangement, okay, for which the PDP had set the country at that time, the North will be having a shortfall for which they will fill in. You understand? Why that argument is tenable? I mean, we also saw how it was repeated. It was repeated by the North. If you want to tell me that Jonathan is at fault, Atiku repeated it. In the last election, where he decided, even after the Asaba declaration, joined forces with the former governor of Delta State, Nyesom. It's because they did not win. That is why we're not talking much about it. When they had already said that power is going to shift to the south, okay, they've all agreed, the PDP had agreed, and Atiku went and did, Atiku and Nyesom did exactly what they accused Jonathan of doing at that time. Okay, so I mean, if we're looking at this thing, we should not look at it from the point of convenience, because that's what is going on now. Everyone is blaming Jonathan for making it possible for Tinubu to emerge. No one is blaming Atiku for also repeating the same thing in the last election just because he didn't win. So I mean, if the parties want to structure zoning in a way that the party should take a decision, okay? Because when Jonathan contested that time, the party ought to have taken a decision. They ought to have made it, because it is a political party that contests election.
Okay, Barrister Ufeli, yes, I totally get your drift. Now, people have argued, and I've said, look, like the federal character argument and also the zoning and rotational gentlemanly agreement, that it doesn't bring out the best, the most competent hands that we have. That how long are we going to keep doing this north and south arrangement? Are we right enough as a country to discard this zoning arrangement, or is just a nice and fair way of doing things that we should continue with it?
We're not right. We're not civilized politically to that point. Okay, it can lead to unrest, a serious one. I mean, I just explained to you how that the civil war broke out. We're not different from what we were then. I'm very sorry. We still hold on to our tribal enclave, because you see that upon the 1960 Constitution, we were all called into nationhood. Everyone was called out of his enclave and tribe to embrace nationhood, which is a bigger picture of democratic engagement. And everyone did that, but when nationhood failed, people reclined to their tribe, because the tribe is the natural enemy of the state. So whenever we gather and we have to do something very, very sensitive, you find people start to speak their languages. They just switch to their languages. Okay? So that diversity that is supposed to be a source of strength, a sort of strong cultural heritage, that diversity and ethnicity that we're supposed to use as an advantage. We don't use as an advantage because nationhood itself had failed. And if you look at the framing of the Constitution from our political development from the Clifford Constitution of 1922 to the Richard Constitution of 1946 to the Macpherson Constitution of 1954 and the Macpherson Constitution of 1951 and the Littleton Constitution of 1954, you see that even the colonial masters, you know, they had to create the Willings Commission at that time to deal with the issue of ethnicity and diversity. Because people of very different, you know, origin were brought together to form Nigeria in 1914. Okay, so we had nothing in common. The Southwesterners, for example, you know, had nothing in common with the East-Westerners and the North and vice versa. So we were people of different fragmentation. And were brought under that umbrella. The colonial masters were not even strategic in creating the unity that is required. So even when they left, the nationalists then, I mean, Awolowo and Nnamdi Azikiwe and the rest of the Ahmadu Bello, Tafawa Balewa, the rest of they had different ideology as to what Nigeria is. Okay, Nnamdi Azikiwe was more of one Nigeria. Let's pull Nigeria up. Let's pull down our tribes and all that. Now, others were talking about let's address our differences. Okay, why we remain one? Let's address our differences. So we saw how that snowballed into a civil war. We came out of the civil war. It continued. It's still entrenched to date. I mean, in Lagos State in the last election, some good lords went to polling units to ask people where they came from before they are allowed to vote. You can see that. So with that kind of thing, they got away with it. They got away with it. The country pretended like they knew nothing about it. And so if people are able to get away with such, you know what that created in this African country?
Rwanda.
There's this African country that they have to fight. Yes. Yeah, the Tutsi and Hutu, you saw what that thing did there. It also affected us. I mean, I talked about the Civil War. And right now, we are still not politically sensitive and educated enough to, you know, embrace what democracy offers, which has to do with, you know, has to do with unity, progress, you know, and development. So we are still trapped in that they were not yet eviscerated from the banalities of antiquity. We are still trapped, okay?
Mr. Ufeli, I really wish we could go on.
But the United States has produced 7 presidents from Virginia, 7 presidents from one state.
Unfortunately, their reality is completely different from ours. We're still very divided along ethnic lines. We're still very divided along religious lines. And yes, you've made reference to the Tutsi and the Hutus, I believe. I think I keep mixing it up. And while we talk about what happened in Rwanda and how they've learned from it, unfortunately in Nigeria, it's a different kettle of fish. I wish we had more time, you know, to look at this, but this is a conversation that we must continue, especially looking at the legality in terms of can it be enforced legally in court, this quote-unquote gentleman agreement of zoning within the political parties. But that will be a conversation for another day, and that might be the angle that we have to explore. Evans Ufeli, thank you very much for answering us this morning and, you know, just shining light on this conversation. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
All right. Let's now share with you what's still to come on Breakfast Central before we bring you the headlines.
Okay. Welcome back. This is Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Bora. We begin the news with political matters as the People's Democratic Party, PDP, faces deepening internal crisis with rival factions preparing to hold parallel meetings today in Abuja. Disagreements center on the position of the National Secretary and the status of the 100 National Executive Committee meeting. Acting National Chairman Umar Dabagum's camp has postponed the NEC and called for an expanded caucus meeting instead. reinstating Senator Samuel Anyanwu as the National Secretary. However, Deputy National Chairman South, Taufik Arakpaja, and 11 National Working Committee members insist that the NEC must proceed as scheduled, rejecting Anyanwu's restatement and labeling an expanded caucus meeting as unconstitutional. The Board of Trustees and other senior party figures backed the NEC meeting, highlighting ongoing factional divisions and procedural disputes within the party. And still on party politics, following the resignation of APC National Chairman Umar Ganduje on Friday, the party's North Central Zone has demanded the position to be zoned to the region. Stakeholders from Kogi, Benue, Nasarawa, and the North Central states insist the party's zoning arrangement favors their claim. In Benue, both the APC factions, one loyal to SGF George Akume and the other to Governor Hyacinth Alia, agree the chairmanship should go to the North Central. Meanwhile, APC stakeholders in Nasarawa, under the All Progressive Forum led by Alhaji Saleh Zazaga, have endorsed former Governor Tanko Almakura for the role, citing extensive consultations within the region. The contest for the vacant chairmanship is intensifying as regional leaders push for representation. Away from that, the presidency has responded to critics of President Tinubu's visit to St. Lucia, dismissing the assumptions that the president was on vacation as an inaccurate narrative. Presidential spokesman Baron Anuga, in a statement on Sunday, clarified that President Tinubu's visit to St. Lucia is a strategic diplomatic engagement and not a vacation. He emphasized that the president's visit marks a historic milestone, being the first by an African leader since Nelson Mandela in 1998. The visit reflects Nigeria's commitment to deepening South-South cooperation and expanding partnership with CARICOM countries. The reconciliation process between suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara and FCT Minister Nyesom appears to be resonating with many in Rivers State. The Rivers women unite for Sim, a pro-Fubara group. It is a prayer answered. Hence, the women are currently having a Thanksgiving program in appreciation of the return of peace to the state. Rivers Women's Unit for Sim Group stood out for their persistence in the demand for the return of democratic rule in Rivers State since the declaration of emergency rule in the state on March 18, 2025. Now to security matters. There were jubilations in parts of Nigeria's North Central region over the weekend following the good news of the successful rescue of 13 passengers abducted from a Benue Links bus at Eke in Okoko local government area of Benue State. The rescue was a joint effort led by the police and local vigilante groups supported by youths from neighboring Kogi State who increased pressure on the kidnappers. The kidnappers abandoned the victims at Oando village on Sunday afternoon. The rescue follows intense forest combing and security operations after the bus was ambushed on June the 22nd. At least 7 people were killed and many others wounded during recent anti-government protests in the Togolese capital, Lome. Campaigning groups and rights organizations who made this known to journalists denounced abuses committed by members of Togolese security forces and militias. They also reported dozens of wounded and more than 60 arrests during the 3 days of demonstrations held from Thursday to Saturday. The Togolese authorities, who have yet to provide an official toll from the recent protests, denied the deaths were linked to the unrest. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Aboroa. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. This morning, as we review the papers, we have journalist of Global Repute, Rabiu Aruna here with us in the studio. Good morning.
Thank you very much. The formidable Mr. Abib Aruna. Always a pleasure to have you.
Always a pleasure.
And it was a weekend, but so many things happened over the weekend. The chairman of the APC resigned. We weren't expecting that. And we saw the peace. I mean, some people have been calling for President Tinubu to be given a Nobel Peace Prize for being able to solve the debacle in River State, you know, between Nyesom and Siminalayi Fubara. They took it away from Aso Rock and they attended a social event together over the weekend. I think it was.
Even though at the social event there was not really any form of friendly interaction.
You know, you take some time after fighting. You don't expect them to be jumping and body like that.
I was actually in Enugu for editors' conference.
Oh yes, I saw
and convention.
The who and who in Nigerian journalism were
there. Did they invite you?
I was supposed to be there. I couldn't catch my flight.
Okay, let's go into the papers and see what the big stories are. Daily Trust. The front page says PDP NEC meeting holds today. NWC members insist. They're still holding it. This 30th of June NEC meeting. Interesting. No, it's expanded caucus session, the Magrum's group say. So whether we like it or not, a meeting is holding. It's what kind of meeting? They have different nomenclatures for the meeting. One said it's the NEC meeting, and that one said it's caucus expansion. Ganduje's exit. CPC block North Central push for APC chairmanship. How Naira depreciation pushed Nigeria's debt to 149.39 trillion Naira. Dan Tata for burial in Saudi Arabia today. 2027. Sean Sycophant Dangiwa tells Tinubu, let's talk about Ganduje's exit. The speculations have started. This morning we had Ladipo Johnson from the NNPP tell us that they haven't heard any official feedback regarding Ganduje
Mr. Kwankwaso.
Rabiu Kwankwaso meeting. The same thing was what Felix Morka said, that there's nothing official, and that Ganduje's resignation is based on health reasons. You have seen the argument as to the political undertone that it may be laced with, but let's get your thoughts.
First of all, I told you guys here that there's likely to be some rapprochement in the reverse crisis. That the brother will come back, but there must be give and take. That's what we are seeing now, playing out. Wike will still be stubborn.
But it seems the giving is more than the taking.
No, but to give it a chance, people have if brother has been under pressure, to just do the right thing.
Okay, so we're talking reverse. Okay, no problem. Let's talk reverse.
But okay. I don't talk you don't have the preamble.
Okay, so use it as a preamble because we still have reverse to talk about.
Yes,
so.
The Ganduje matter. You see, there have been these talks that there's realignment and strategizing by Tinubu and his aides. We are likely to see more of it. Ganduje does not fit into their strategy for now. Then, because of his many garbages the man is carrying, alleged corruption, collecting money and houses from aspirants, and the man he has many enemies in the party. Look at all it's not a secret.
But looking at what is going on,
and the VP are not
some people have described Mr. President as a use and dump politician. Looking at his antecedents in Lagos, how he used 3 deputy governors, and how he has used the vice president, because there's every speculation that the vice president would not be returning on that 2027 ticket. And also the recent resignation of Umar Ganduje. What does this say about the character of President Tinubu? Is he a use and dump politician?
I will see that a man that is pragmatic.
I mean, his pragmatism is another way of use and dump.
To you, it's use and dump, but the man is looking in the future.
In other words, looking at the game.
Absolutely. He's playing his game. I'm likely to see more. Look at.
Until you're a victim of that.
Look at the message of right. It's not central. I already justly the position of chairmanship. The rumor, passive rumor, you quote, or removal of Shetima.
Somebody is already justly. He said, I will do anything you want me to do as vice president. Remember that.
Strategically placed in a good position to run again in 2027, and to win. That's what we're seeing. Okay. But some may not be happy in the party. But Tinubu and his handlers, they know what they are doing. That is my view.
Okay. Let's move to the next paper, the Daily Independent. Nigeria's rising debt revenue shortfalls deepen fiscal worries. Presidency replies Obi justifies Tinubu's trip to St. Lucia. Account for security votes, Terra tells governors. Stakeholders worry over heightened mass unemployment in Nigeria. FX risk, others push airlines to pursue dry lease with states. Dangote 720 billion naira CNG drive to save Nigerians 1.7 trillion naira and lift 42 million MSMEs. 3.5 billion naira Nigeria's services account deficit highlights weakness in FX generation. And finally, PDP crisis deepens as NWC holds parallel meetings ahead of NEC.
I mean, very serious crisis there, different factions, different meetings. But there are things I want us to focus on here. Two items. For me, we'll be looking at security votes and also Dangote 720 billion. The trucks have started arriving, the CNG drive to save Nigerians 1.7. Some have said this is the final nail in the coffin of monopolization of the downstream sector of the Nigerian economy, that this is taking it too far. But I mean, from his own perspective, he said, look, we'll bring the products to you, we'll save you time, and all of that at no charge. What do you make of this initiative by Dangote?
He's a key player there.
Yes.
The man owns the yam and the knife. So, and I've always...
the yam and the knife?
Yes, I've always...
What about the palm oil?
No, those are inconsequential. The main thing is the yam and the knife. You see, in this enterprise, Dangote is the sole provider. You know, and in the country where you have massive corruption, the families are not working, or they fail to work because people are putting the money in their pockets. So the money is falling to the bank. Is Dangote? So we will be at the mercy of Dangote if something is not done. We don't have people that are decisive in government to put this right. And I don't think it is in the best interest of Nigerians and its development. If you like, by extension, its growth was a single person to control this. Look at our experience in sugar, our experience in the way it controls cement, and even salt.
But looking back at how things used to be and how we used to queue for days and endless queues, we don't see that anymore. And in fairness, the prices reflect what is the global benchmark for the product. So I mean, of course, it's also a capitalist and a businessman.
I can't wait to see the completion of Boa refinery in Akwa. I can't wait. I don't like someone monopolizing all these things. I'm telling you, because at the end of the day,
so what options are left? What options are left?
So I want Nigerians to insist, you know, and to pressurize government to resuscitate our refineries. If they are resuscitated, there's no way price will not go down. There'll be competition. But for now, other floor marketers are shouting.
If I was a floor marketer, what advice would you give them? Looking at the way things are going.
Floor marketer will be at the mercy of Dangote as time goes on. Don't forget that anytime Dangote sneezes, all of us,
they catch a cold.
So, and if they reducing price of the next money you see it, they reduce how much you pay for to buy fuel. So I think government should be more serious about these things. They should be more serious. There should be emphasis in making sure that our refineries are working. If they are working, Dangote will face competition. And if they face competition, consumers will benefit.
Just last week, Oliver and I were talking about the people that are supposed to make it work in Warri, and now they're under AFCC custody because they took the money that was meant to make it work into other ventures. But they will answer those questions as to why it's not working, and they will show workings for the money spent as time goes on.
Amen. Let's still look at the front page. The left corner of the paper, you can see Presidency replies Obi justifies Tinubu's trip to St. Lucia. So you've seen the back and forth. His Excellency Peter Obi thinks that is very
holiday.
Not those words, but in some measure, I think it's implying that it's not really responsible of the presidency to be going on these kind of trips when Nigeria is facing serious insecurity challenges. In the response to this, Bayo Onanuga says, in the wake of some Nigerians' misguided, mischievous, and uninformed comments regarding President Bola Tinubu's historic state visit to St. Lucia, it is necessary to clarify the purpose of the visit. And then he goes on to say, first, From the perspective of the government of St. Lucia, the visit by the Nigerian leader paves the way for the rekindling of our ancestral bonds, igniting a new era of diplomatic, cultural, and economic possibilities between our nations. He goes on, there are a lot of things he says about how the people of St. Lucia are excited that the president is visiting them. Then in a separate tweet, he responds to the post and said, this is for Peter Obi, whose opposition strategy appears to be focused on weaponizing everything under the sun, persistently challenging President Tinubu's every initiative and move, regardless of merit, equating constant criticism with effective opposition. Let's get your thoughts.
Is Mr. Amenuga just doing his job, or is taking it too far?
No, well, I think Amenuga is doing his job. As the presidential spokesperson.
Mr. Peter Obi
as the image maker.
And is Mr. Peter Obi not doing his job
as the image maker of President Tinubu? I've always said it on the program that a Peter Obi is important. A Peter Obi is a major component of our democracy. If our democracy must grow, people like Peter Obi, people like Atiku opposition leaders are important for us to grow this democracy. We need to put the government on their toes. And the response that Amenuga gave us today is a normal thing. You know, if there's no Obi's action, there won't be reaction from Amenuga. They're only saying enough. But Nigerians are also watching. And they will be the judge. They will judge who is deceiving who we are. But this man travel all the time. He travel to St. Lucia and from there to another place.
He's going to Brazil for...
No, what are we talking? No, why did man just sit down at home and face the challenges of this country and try to...
But we need foreign investors, and the world is a global...
So you must travel to go foreign investors? You know, those are the questions. But Obi should keep on talking. But the response of Amenuga
at the end of the day
is an indication that
everyone is...
That the power corridors, people are listening. You keep on talking.
Yes, and like you said, everyone is doing their job. Even us that were reporting this, we're also doing our job.
But in response to what he's saying, you know, I don't know, do we get the sense that he's being insensitive to Nigerians? And I know that part of why he's raising this up is because, or highlighting this, is because if you recall, he couldn't go to Yar'Adua, the president couldn't go to Yar'Adua community. He couldn't go to visit the affected victims, those who were directly affected because of the rain and the floods, you know, and also the fanfare that surrounded the president's visit to Benue, the public holidays, the children lining up on that.
I think we should put this thing in perspective. The president cannot visit everywhere, every disaster zones. The president has advisors, people that he appointed. He has aides. The vice president visited some of these places, and he went to Benue. You know, and that visit to Benue was very consequential and very instructive. That peace may reign. And since that visit, you can see that killings have a bit subsided. So it can't be everywhere, you know. But at the same time, the president should also attend to some matters outside the country.
Now, from let's look at this piece from SERB. They're saying account for security votes. SERB tells governors the current structure as it stands. Governors, it almost feels like it's a blank check, the security votes. Is there any level of scrutiny or accountability? As someone that has been very close and walked in the corridors of power, looking at Lagos State, for example, what's the accountability mechanism for security votes?
That's a big question. Security votes has been under intense debate and scrutiny. But nobody will tell you what's going on with that vote. It's under the discretion of the governors.
Do the people deserve
and the last time I checked, the governors are very, very powerful in this current enterprise. Very, very powerful. There's no checks and balances. I said it last week here. In the states, the government behave like emperors.
So what about the state councils of assembly?
The of assembly, unfortunately, they're in the pockets of these governors. Because the speaker, this is governor of the state that decides to become the speaker. The governor of the state decides to become the chairman of the very local government. So, and I was saying that Nigeria should put more focus on activities of our governors. Because for example, good question, security votes, how is this spent? In Lagos, it's a different thing entirely. Because we can see that Lagos is the safest place in Nigeria. That is what they do with these security votes. If you look at the security outfit,
rapid response.
Absolutely. They have enough equipment, they have enough vehicles to combat crimes and so on and so forth. So you can easily say that Lagos, people that have in Lagos, they spend that vote very well. But in other states, if there is no check and balance, you will not know how these votes are spent. It's only discretion and abuse of the various governors, and that is unfortunate.
All right. Thank you for that. I think we should look at the final paper. Or where did I see the story about psychophants? Was it on this one? No,
Daily Trust, I believe.
It was on Daily Trust, yes. Still on Daily Trust. We'll come to
Ganduje says
that final story.
Damagum.
Exactly. Sean psychophants. Ganduje tells Tinubu. Now, apparently this was gotten from his statement when he was receiving his national awards. He was conferred he was conferred a national honor as one of the leaders of the June 12 movement, and there was a statement from an article. He said, "My CFR National Honors Award." This was the statement that was obtained by the Daily Trust, and this was formally announcing the acceptance of the honor given to him in the June 12 struggle. He then talked about, I think the presidency made a mistake. They skipped him in the broadcast.
Well, not in the
official broadcast. And so he said he's accepted it, and then told the president to lead a war against psychophancy, And then he went on to say that there are other people that, while he appreciates that they gave him this honor, but that there are other people who also fought alongside him, went ahead to list their names. He said, and I quote, "When the president called to inform me of his decision to magnanimously confer me the National Award of Commander of the Federal Republic, CFR, on account of my much advertised role in the struggle for the validation of the June 12th election and affirmation of Chief MKO Abiola's mandate, my first reaction was, why only me, and not all those unsung heroes, those officers and men who actively participated in that struggle, risking their careers and even their lives. Although I was one of the leaders of that movement within the military, my contribution was by no means bigger than theirs. While I have been recognized and celebrated, including this national honor by the president, they have remained anonymous. It is therefore incumbent upon me to reveal the identity of these patriots, if only to acknowledge and commend their contributions to the emergence of the current democratic dispensation." Then he goes ahead to list all the people who...
Like how many names?
Wow, there are quite a number. Let me see if I can run through
not all, just some of them.
As quickly. He said top on his list is the deputy at the Armored Corps Center and School, Colonel M.A. Garba, whose commitment was so strong that he continued with the execution of our plans after some of us were arrested, detained, and mercifully retired in October 1993. He went on as he should to attain the enviable rank of a Major General in the Army. Others are Lieutenant Colonel Lawal Jafaru, the same the UF Ahmed, MS Dasuki, ML Gwadabe, Colonel J. Temlong, Musa Shehu, Colonel Chris Eze, Colonel H.M. Zama, Colonel Issa Jibrin, J.O.S. Oshanuping, A. Olorun Toba, Kabiesi Olugbede of Gbede Kingdom, Moke, Happy Bulos, a lot of these people are Lieutenant Colonel, yes, Olagunsoye Oyinlola, J. Ohai, E. Ndubueze, Yakubu Mwazu, Yahaya Abubakar, who is current Etsunupe, Major Sahad Abubakar, who is the current Sultan of Sokoto, Major Abba Malari, Major Jamil Tahir, Major Buzugbe, Major LP Aprezi, Major MK Yake, Major General Dawa, Major Suleiman Wali. Then there are a few others. He said others include Major Dauda Komo, Major Loki Torie, Major J.S. Zarwa, Major M. Sumaye, Major Sani Bawa, Major Ndaliman, Major Ahmed, Major Emba, Lieutenant Colonel J.B. Ahmadu, and Captain Junaid Bindawa, and Captain La.
Very magnanimous of him to recognize his comrades.
To mention all of them as well.
Very magnanimous of you too.
Thank you.
Take your flowers.
Thank you very much. But let's get your thoughts.
Today, yes. The statement to thank the president and to accept the award. The president, people that listed the names of people to be awarded honors. They are all strong for June 12. They forgot to mention the name of, to put the name of Colonel Dangiwa.
Yes.
Umar Dangiwa. So when the president visited Kaduna, he symbolically apologized and awarded him the honor. Awarded. But I'm not too comfortable with what Umar wrote yesterday regarding. He said presumed winner. Abdullahi is no longer the presumed winner. Abdullahi has been officially declared the winner of June 12 elections. And recognized as such with the award of GCFR. So I would have said that.
Probably an oversight.
But having said that, I think what you read is something that should be.
Do you think that maybe the presidency should
applauded.
Visit the...
No. It's not something. It's not a final list. There are many people like Nyesom, even though president in the 1990 coup, participated actively.
By the next
on the 12th, on the next one, yeah, it's a possibility. You know, it's not something that even General Williams was saying that should be there.
Yeah.
He really should.
Yes, absolutely.
He was very vocal.
Very vocal and very bold.
At risk of his life.
He was very audacious in fighting for the validation of that election.
Yes, and Vice Admiral.
I think it's an ongoing thing. I think every
Alison Madueke.
At every democracy day, June 12, more people should be recognized.
We look forward to the
some of
day
them
where
died
we have an
for the struggle of this
that
June
will
12.
be publicly recognized as free, fair, and credible, just like the June 12th election, has been adjudged to be Nigeria's freest and fairest election. Let's go to the Daily Times newspaper, our final paper for this morning. 500 billion naira maintenance deficit plagues Nigeria's bad roads. All right. Okay. We have, I think the one here is the wrong one. Can we please double check? This isn't the correct one. The front page of the Daily Times newspaper says 500 billion naira maintenance deficit plagues Nigeria's bad roads. Ex-police IG Arase promotes community policing. Shareholders reject CBN control of unclaimed dividends, demand reform. Tinubu St. Lucia visit rekindles African-Caribbean ties. Ex-Nigerian footballer, Europe-based partner arrested in drug bust. APC national chairmanship, North Central backs Al-Makura and be sensitive to sufferings of poor Nigerians, Obi tells Tinubu. But let's go back to this APC national chairmanship. What are your expectations for who would occupy the next seat? And if, for now, I did ask this question to Felix Moka. There seems to be some sort of internal wrangling and division. The Northwest wants the presidency. The North Central is vying for chairmanship. It just feels like there's a lot of
Northwest wants the vice presidency.
Vice presidency, thank you for that. Vice presidency. So it looks like there's some sort of internal wrangling in terms of which zone deserves what position. Do you think that the current temporary national chairman will have all that it takes to unify the party and move from this place of internal wrangling and maybe some sort of displeasure until they get the...
There's no wrangling in APC.
Okay, you don't think so?
There's jostling for position.
They are not too happy with what is going on.
And why are they jostling for a position that has not been officially declared vacant, the vice presidency?
Do you know why they cannot fight in APC?
Okay.
Because they're in power. When PDP was in power, there was no fight. According to Kusamotu, former national top official of that party, he told me in 2008, he said once the party is in power,
you can't fight.
You can't fight because there's something.
There won't be internal crisis.
There's a bigger pie to eat. So since they have removed Ganduje, politicians will always just to.
Yes.
For something. But what we are saying
nature opposes it.
Absolutely, they are justing for what we
But we said nature opposes it, but there's no vacuum in the position of the vice presidency. So why are people speaking openly about it? And do you expect a statement from the president? Because if you were in the position of the current vice president, Mr. Shettima, you will feel somehow upset. I have 2 years left on my mandate. I'm still on seat, and people are already openly talking about replacing me, which has never happened since this current democratic dispensation since 1999. I'll find it very awkward. And how is he expected to focus on his job when people are already jostling for his position?
But that is the dilemma that anybody that is vying for vice presidency or deputy governor face. The deputy governor and the vice president.
But it's not usual. It's never happened since 1999.
No, depends. The vice president and the deputy governor is at the discretion, back and call of the governor or the president. That is how it is.
Yes.
And the people are saying that many people in the north, particularly in the northeast, they are not happy that there are precautions that they may likely remove or replace their man
Yeah, because the reasons why it was a joint ticket, and so many people might have voted
and the party is
for the president.
No. And the party is saying that it is at the discretion of the president. If the president gets the nomination of the party to pick his running mate, instead the party did not running mate, the party will now meet and approve it. But you see, it's not automatic. It's a joint ticket, but at the same time, it is when the primary is done with that there's a flag bearer and owns the party's ticket that they will decide the primary. That what happened during Jonathan and Yar'Adua. That happened Obasanjo and Atiku was already governor in Adamawa State. So it's not automatic. But because of politics, sentiment will rise, emotion will rise. Do
you think the president should continue with the current vice president?
No, my opinion, the president is the discretion. The president will pick someone that we enable him to win. Don't forget that. No.
So it goes back to the and don't.
Yeah, some will pick president. There are two things involved. Okay.
He says it's pragmatism.
Pick someone that will enable you to win, and someone that will enable you to rule after winning.
So do you think that's Rabiu Kwankwaso?
And that is why George Bush Jr. picked the Cheney to allow him to win and to allow him to rule.
So is it then possible that Rabiu Kwankwaso would enable him because of the influence?
No, it's not sure yet if they pick Kwankwaso. But Kwankwaso coming to APC is a big asset. Kwankwaso is more formidable, more popular, and more structures in Kano than Ganduje. That is a known fact. It's a truism. So if it's coming in, it will be an access to the confirmation of Tinubu's second term in office. But there is that how will people kind of feel? But Kano is the biggest state in Northwest, most influential. If you pick
millions of votes.
If you pick Ganduje, yes. I think it will add value to the ticket. That is if it's Ganduje. If you pick Kwankwaso, well, Ganduje is not too popular. He had many things hanging on his neck, and it's not too amiable.
Okay.
Okay.
But that's politics. We got to expect more of it. And one thing I should add is that, you see, that people in APC are already jittery from this coalition.
Why are they jittery?
I've always argued here that the coalition is the only way to pose a threat.
But Mr.
Let me give you information. To pose a threat to APC. The coalition is becoming stronger. And from what I'm hearing, Peter Obi and Atiku are implicitly ready to forgo their ambition. For someone that is very, very formidable.
Who?
Do we know the identity?
I'll mention it here. It's not in the card.
Okay.
I'll mention it here. For someone that, when the guy started to accept, when he started to accept, you can be sure that Tinubu leg will be shaken.
Someone that has more influence than Tinubu.
No, I won't say more influence, more popular.
Give us.
No, I won't say that. I'm telling you as a medical writer.
Okay, let's hear from Chude calling from Port Harcourt. Ojodu Bega, sorry. Good morning, Chude. Please go ahead.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling. Good morning.
Yes. What I want to say about the matter on ground is that even before now, President Tinubu has indicated, has shown the world that he doesn't have a vice president, because the way the man is being treated, the way the vice president is being treated, has even shown the world that he's not going to pick him again. The man has become irrelevant. Even his role, he doesn't even perform anything. It's like the president's son has taken over the job. So I think it's better for the man, for him to drop the man and pick up someone else. Even his actions is pointing towards that he's not going to pick him for the second time. If there will be second time anyway. If there will be second time, he's not going to pick him. He's going for somebody else, maybe to balance the situation of what's on ground. Thank you, and have a nice day.
You're saying if there will be second term, with all we are saying, is it not evident that they most likely will
if they win, I guess that's what it is.
I know, but I understand what he's saying. But with the way Nigeria's politics has been structured, with the way that it has worked, does it not look like already there is strong indication that the power of incumbency will be, will wield its influence?
Not all the time. President Jonathan lost as an incumbent, so we'll just wait and see. Now, I want to ask Mr. Abdullahi this question as a political strategist and someone who's been in the corridors of power. In the game of poker, you hold your cards very, okay, you are very halal, you are not a gambler, close to your chest, but I'm just using this metaphorically. Don't you think it's too early for the APC to be revealing its strategies, these changes? You are 2 years away from the Why don't you shock and surprise your opponents?
The APC leadership and apparatchik, they are not aware of what is going on in the coalition. But there are people among the coalition people. And yes, when you listen to what Erufai last week on the TV program, he was so bold and he was so confident that Tinubu is gone. They have something on their sleeve. So they should not be sleeping. And the Tinubu I know want to be ahead of the game.
So this rearrangement,
yes, but there is a deliberate effort now and move by some people among the economic class, military class, political class, to give this man a good fight. And he knows that. I'm telling you now on the program.
One day
we see. I told you the other time that if you look at it very well, at the end of the day, nobody is sure of his position in the APC. Nobody is sure. And as time goes on, you will see the way they're moving and put. And in APC, I foresee a situation whereby they will appoint a CPC person to replace Ganduje.
Just to balance it.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
I want to take your thoughts on something very interesting. We have a few minutes left, so I need your opinion on this. We're in Lagos State, and Lagos State is of very utmost importance to us. Since the end of the Miranda and Obasa debacle, we've not heard any activities in the Lagos State House of Assembly, and it's been very quiet. But just last week, the governor of Lagos State traveled from Lagos to Abuja to go and thank the president for wishing him a happy birthday. What do you make of this waste of resources and this junketing in the name of politicking when majority of street lights in Lagos are not functional and the State House of Assembly is not saying anything about this? Have we suspended governance for politicking in Lagos, the so-called center of excellence?
But being someone that has been in government up there, the governor managed the image of a governor of the state, I'm disturbed. I'm disturbed. But at the same time,
you saw that.
I'm disturbed.
Yes.
When I drive around town, look at the chaos on our roads.
The darkness
on our roads. Look at the lack of effectiveness in enforcing law and order. I'm disturbed. But politics is like that, my brother. We are journalists.
No. Happy birthday in
no. Don't also forget that. Before the bad day, the governor has been in a big mess. He has been embattled.
In a conundrum.
Yes. So it was the president wishing well after he had already said, I've forgiven you. So it's not out of the way for the governor as a good man, as a good guy, as a good boy, to go to Abuja and say, thank you very much, thank you very much, sir. When politics is allowed.
Politics is different from normal life.
There are many things that we cannot take as journalists.
We are not.
That is allowed in politics.
We are not on the same level.
So, and I always tell people, if you cannot bear the heat, leave the kitchen.
Wahala.
And on that note, I think it's time for us to leave the kitchen, my sister. Because the heat is getting unbearable.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us this morning. To our guests, those who joined us virtually as well as in studio, thank you for your time. We'll be back again tomorrow. And thank you to our viewers, those on YouTube as well as all the platforms. We'll be back again. Thank you. I'm Olive Emodi.
And I'm Benga Bora. See you next month.
It's true. Tomorrow is next month. See you next month. Bye-bye.